Welcome back up on the mountain today.
I had a friend of mine give me a bunch of scrap steel for the blacksmith shop.
And make some kind of skinner knife, I guess. Something about as big as the metal will make.
Let's go ahead and get one piece in the forge here. Let it start heating up.
I think we're going to start out with this piece by hammering down the tang. And whatever we don't need for a handle, that part will become the blade. All right, well that will take care of the tang. Let's work on the blade now. We have it flipped around in the forge to start heating up the other end. So what I'm working on right now, this is the other piece of metal that we started with, is I'm profiling the blade, and I'm also trying to make it thinner. So from the tip back to wherever the handle is going to be, I want it to be thin at the tip, fairly wide at the base, and it's called a vestigial taper. That's what we're working on right now. Now we're working on thinning out the cutting edge of the blade. The more hammering we do on it, the less grinding we have to do. So let's keep hammering. The last step is to hammer in a little bit of a drop tip on the point there, and then we're going to neaten up the tang just a little bit more. Now before we quench this blade, we're going to go ahead and drill some holes in the tang. It'll just make it easier. That drill bit was not happy. We got both holes drilled in the tang. Let's get it back in the forge, heat it up for quenching. So I think before we quench it, we're going to thermocycle it a couple times, which just means bring it up to red and then let it cool down to black. Since this was a leaf spring, it may want to go back to a spring shape. So we're just trying to relieve any of that stress that might be in the blade. All right, that's enough thermocycling. Let's put it back in the forge, heat it up, and let's do the quench. All right, we have one quenched and hardened blade. Let's go ahead and turn the forge off, get this thing cooled down, and get on the grinder. All right, first step on grinding would be to get this tip where we want it, get these shoulders nice and square, and clean up this tang just a little bit. All right, we cleaned up these shoulders right here because we are going to put a guard. Let me show you real quick. We're going to get some thin stock material and put a metal guard right along there, and we want that to be nice and flush. So I think we got that done well. This is the back of the knife, and it's perfectly straight to here, and then it drops off to the tip. The bottom is perfectly straight to about here, and then it starts a nice radius all the way to the tip. So now we're going to start grinding in these bevels. So we're going to leave about probably a ½ inch, not even a ½ inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch, and start deep grinding this all the way to the tip. All right, I think that's good enough for the plunge grinds right now. What we were mainly aiming for is to keep this in the middle of the blade and, I don't know, hollow this out just a little bit along the edges. Now we're going to go back to the flat thing and do some more grinding. say that's enough for the rough grinding. We still have some hammer marks to get out. We got the drop tip pretty much finalized. Got the tang all cleaned up. I think we're going to go to the 1-inch grinder real quick, work on these bevels, and then go find something else to do for the day. All right, I think that's good enough for the first day. We started out with this. We ended with this. Yeah, it's about the same shape and everything, but it's a little more refined. Let's show you what we ended up with. We have it's going to be a hidden tang, so all of this is going to be covered with handle material. We're going to put a metal guard here in the front. We didn't quite sharpen this edge yet. I don't want to do that until after we get the handle on. It's not safe to hold on to it when it's really sharp. We did grind in this false tip just a little bit. We have a little bit more sanding on the side here to get rid of these hammer marks. We have 2 or 3 on this side, and just a splattering of a little stuff over here we got to take care of. But overall, that's pretty good. It's going to be a little short hunter knife, probably about 6 inches long, and should have a good either a walnut or a maple handle. All right, we're back up at the blacksmith shop today, and it is a wet one. The forecast says it's going to be raining all day, so we're going to finish up that knife we started the other day. We're going to put a handle on it and a guard. Even though it's wet outside, it's nice and dry in the blacksmith shop. Now, we're probably not going to need the forge today, but we are going to make a mild steel guard, so you don't know, we might have to use it. So here's the knife blade we made the other day. And I have this block of wood. I don't really know what it is. I think it might be maple, but I think it might be some type of mountain laurel. Seems pretty dense, so I'm sure it'll work out just fine. We also have a chunk of mild steel. I think we're going to cut a piece of this out to make a guard that fits right over this tang up against these shoulders. I think that's the step we want to start on. I think the first thing we want to do is grab a drill bit that's about the same thickness as our knife blade. That looks pretty close. We went ahead and marked a center line on this piece of steel, and we'll just go ahead and give it a drill here. So we drilled a whole bunch of small holes in this guard, but as I started drilling out the larger holes, it grabbed the metal and snapped the drill bit. So we're going to have to work on this a little bit. I think we might try the angle grinder, see if we can get the bulk of that material out of the middle. Let's see if that's big enough to get a file in there. All right, good news is we have enough clearance to get a file into this gap. Also, the good news is it's still narrower than our knife blade. that took entirely too much filing, but the end result's really good. We're super tight in here. And if I force it just a little bit, looks like it seats nicely. All right, so I think that's about as good as we're going to get that guard to fit up. Looks pretty even all the way around. There's no excessive slop in it. There's a slight gap right here. I may do some light hand sanding, but we'll leave it good enough for now. Next thing we need to do is cut the guard off down here somewhere. We're going to leave it just a little bit long until we know how long it needs to be. Alright, we have our guard mostly polished up. Still has a few imperfections, but I'm not sure what the final size is going to be. So we'll say that's good enough for now. Okay, so the piece of wood we chose for our handle is slightly narrower than the guard. I guess we're going to shape the wooden handles first. Make a good, comfortable grip. And then we will work on getting the guard sized to fit the handle. That sounds like a plan. I think the first thing we want to do is true up all these edges. I have a few little saw marks and things on it. Just get the edges nice and parallel and cleaned up. Make sure there's no cracks or anything in the wood. And yeah, then we're going to have to drill some holes for that tang. That should be the second thing we do. Alright, we got our block of wood pretty much flat on all the edges. Put some marks where we want to drill our holes. So we're going to drill one hole on one edge, one hole on the other edge. And they have to go down to a point here in the middle. And I'm going to mark that with a pen or something so I know what to aim for. So it's going to go down on an angle and down on an angle till they kind of touch. And then we'll try to drill out that middle piece. I don't know if this is going to work. I've never done this before, but let's give it a try. Alright, so we broke this drill bit off in the hole, but I was able to get it out. So let's keep going. Alright, I can see why people don't like making hidden tang knives. We finally got the inside carved out, nice tight fit, and I think we have just enough space for our guard. Let's go ahead and see if that fits in there. We can put our guard on something like that, put our wood on something like that, and now we need to shape this wood piece, I guess. I think the first thing we're going to shape on the wood is get a nice fit on this guard where we can push it close together. Then we're going to work on cutting pins through the tang into the wood just so we don't move it around. But yeah, let's get this front edge ground so it fits on nice and tight. Then we'll drill some pins. Alright, we seem to have a good fit up on the guard to the blade. and the handle to the guard. So now we just need to figure out where the pins go. All right, we're pretty confident we can see through the holes, so that's good. I've made 2 pins, and we sharpen the ends to help them go through, because the next step is to glue the handle on, and once we put that epoxy on, there's no going back. All right, I think we're going to mix the epoxy right here on this lid. We've been doing this several times, and it seems to work okay. And most likely this is going to be a nasty mess, so yeah, that should be good. Also put some on the Tang in the holes, with every possibility of never coming out again. Well, I sure hope this thing goes together. All right, here we go. Put a little bit more down inside. We add some here in case we over drilled those holes. What's the chances of the hole still lining up? Slim to none. Looks good. All right, we have the pins all the way through. Let's wipe this epoxy up and let it cure. All right, we're making progress. We have a nice little finger well dug out here. We've finished shaping our finger guard. I don't think I want to make it much shorter, maybe just a little bit shorter. The back is mostly chopped down. It has a little bit extra we could grind down, but I don't want to make it too short. I think it's good to be able to feel the end of the knife past your fingers. We obviously have a bunch of finish sanding to do because obviously we're getting some burn marks using the grinder. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's get some more grinding done and we'll show it again. right, I think that's going to do it for the handle on this knife. We have 2 copper pins through the hidden tang. We have a nice mild steel guard that's swept back. Little finger well, it wraps around nicely. The end of the handle is just a little bit long. We still need some hand sanding, but I'll do that back when we get to the house. Let's go ahead and get an edge on this blade. Alright, so that's going to do it for our through tang Skinner knife. It is super sharp. I mean, really sharp. Handle feels really good. It's slightly long, but I'm going to leave it that way. Yeah, so that's it. You guys make sure to get outside, do something fun. Come back and tell me about it.